Federal Executive Council approves 20 billion naira for new road projects across the country.
Following arson attacks, President Buhari orders immediate end to violence in Boki local government area of Cross River State.
House of Representatives seek 40% budget allocation for capital projects.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the raging controversy over the enrollment of ASU members into the IPPIS.
Once upon a time in Nigeria's records of personnel, payrolls of ministries, departments and agencies were open to abuse, from fraudulent syndicates whose expertise was on ghost workers to an inefficient system that drained the nation's coffers of billions of naira.
However, Jumai, that story began changing in 2007 with the introduction of the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, which is IPPIS. And 12 years on, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation declared some few months ago that Nigeria had saved nearly 200 billion naira in at least 2 years.
Well, Kingsley, one would say the motive of ensuring transparency, accountability and probity from about 700,000 federal government employees across the 490 MDAs already captured seems welcoming. So it was no surprise when on October 8, 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari, while presenting the 2020 budget proposal before lawmakers, vowed that any federal employee not captured on the IPPS should forget receiving a monthly salary beginning from October 2019.
But the Academic Staff Union of Universities said that they would not be registered in the scheme, declaring that the action on the policy, while government believes that IPPIS will bring sanity into the university system, the nation's ivory tower would insist that IPPIS for university staff members could ignite industrial disharmony and violate university autonomy.
Well, Kingsley, the current fragile peace in the country's university campuses survived a scare a few weeks back following the suspension of a threatened strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Consequently, several meetings were held, but concerned parties are yet to find a common ground, resulting in the federal government's no IPPIS, no salary threats.
Although lecturers are not backing down, the federal government is calling their bluff as the Office of the Accountant General has been mandated to start the enrollment of lecturers from November 25th to the 7th of December this year. In the meantime, a splinter group of ASU, known as the Congress of University Academics, has gone ahead to direct its members to begin enrollment in the IPPIS scheme. Muzzles have been flexed. Another showdown is apparently imminent, and as the drama unfolds, questions as to what the positions of the two parties are will obviously continue to arise. But how can the contending issues be resolved? Is it by amending the Universities Acts that establish the various federal universities to accommodate IPPIS, or will there be other proposals coming from ASU itself with regard to what needs to be done to accommodate what ASU says are its own peculiarities in the university system? Those are issues we'll focus on today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. On that note, we'd like to welcome you to the program, broadcast as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Jumma Yusuf. We have our complimentary segments of the program like newspaper review, business and orders. For now, let's join Claire Adelabo Abdulrazak for the morning news. Good morning, Claire.
Good morning, Jumma and Kingsley. Quite an interesting topic we have this morning. It will be interesting to also know how that plays out. We hear some members of ASU in some universities are already complying with the IPPIS rule. Well, here is the news. About 20 billion naira is to be expended by the federal government on the construction of 3 new road projects in parts of the country. And that's a deliberate attempt at addressing the critical infrastructure deficit for economic growth and development. Now, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, announced this at a media briefing after the meeting of the Federal Executive Council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Roads are so strategic and important for the collective ownership and connectivity that represents the diversity of our nation. That's part of our strategy long term to help grow the economy, to help create more jobs, to deliver the interconnectivity that we all talk about.
And the Senate has urged the federal government to increase funding to Border Community Development Agency as it strives to fulfill its mandate of developing those areas to give the people a sense of belonging. Now, that was part of a resolution adopted in a motion on the plight of border communities brought before the Senate by Suleiman Umar of Kwara State and 21 others.
Border communities are in dire need of development in the area of infrastructure, healthcare, education, water, and access roads. I think there is a need for the federal government to come up with an intervention fund that will go a long way to solving the problems of these border communities.
Those in favor prior 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
And the legislation seeking the allocation of 40% of annual budget estimates for capital projects is in the works at the House of Representatives. A bill to that effect, sponsored by the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, was debated at Wednesday's plenary.
To increase our GDP, stimulate the economy, provide employment, bridge the infrastructural deficit that we've all been talking about that will take us trillions and trillions and trillions of naira to meet.
This bill is apt, germane, and relevant to our developmental context today, providing that we should have 40% across board of Nigerian budget to make provision for capital projects. We mean that we are actually addressing the imbalances, addressing what those who voted us into office are yearning for.
And adequate funding remains a major challenge towards realizing the next level agenda of the federal government. In this regard, the Office of the Special Assistant to the President on Policy Development organized a roundtable on enhancing the sources of revenue for government.
So many changes have taken place and so many ideas have now evolved. So what do? We cannot sit on our own and think, yes, we have all the knowledge. We felt it is very necessary.
So growth needs to be funded, parts of it from the public sector, parts of it from the private sector as well.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the ongoing violence in Boki local government area of Cross River State, which has in the past 24 hours led to yet to be confirmed number of deaths and arson attacks. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, states that so far there have been claims and counterclaims on who ignited the killings and arson between the neighboring communities of Nandap, Nsadop and Boji community. While the origin of the mayhem is still unclear, President Buhari notes that no dispute or grievance is what the violent snatching away of another person's life, as Nigerians must learn to live peacefully with each other and seek less British means of resolving conflicts. The President calls on the Cross River State government and the Boki local government authorities to immediately look into the crisis and take action to ensure that the unfortunate situation is resolved both in the short and long terms. Meanwhile, the ongoing Operation Safe Corridor in the northeast Nigeria is set to have recorded success by supporting the counter-insurgency operations in the northeast. Now, how to sustain and develop the rehabilitation and reintegration program is a thrust of a high-level forum organized by the Nigeria Army Resource Center here in Abuja.
Disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, and resettlement. This four key factors or variables are very important in peace building.
The military has been challenged on why it's not doing much more, even when the audience is informed that some of the responsibilities being undertaken were civil in nature.
And finally, the Presidential Fleet Commander Hassan Bala Abubakar was this Wednesday decorated Air Vice Marshal by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja.
Promotions call for greater responsibility, and I want to seize this opportunity to pledge my unflinching loyalty to you, sir. I promise to continue my service to the Nigerian Air Force and the nation with unalloyed dedication and commitment, and I vow to do all that is within my power to defend the territorial integrity of our beloved country, Nigeria.
And that concludes this morning news. Do join me again at 10. In the meantime, do stay with us as Kingsley and Jume will be back shortly to continue Good Morning Nigeria.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our space. Becky Madojemo of NTA, Utibe Umore of AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Also feature Iya Modina.
I'm the CEO, Managing Director of Iya Modina Sister Restaurant. I choose to serve. Shut up your mouth. Let me finish.
A TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Iya Modina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Christmas celebration.
Radio Nigeria, NTA, and Voice of Nigeria poised to set the tune for the season of joy with its annual festival of 9 lessons and carols.
Theme: Jesus in the midst of the storm.
Featuring Professor Laz Ekweme Chorale, Lagos.
Classical operatic soprano by Abiodun Koya.
Instrumentals and special appearances.
Save the date. It's Sunday, 1st December 2019 at the National Christian Center, Abuja, 3 p.m. prompt.
It promises to be soul-lifting and entertaining as we showcase scintillating music from different parts of the country.
Guest speaker, Dr. Paul Enenche, Senior Pastor, Dynamis International Gospel Center.
Lessons will be read by notable Nigerians, including the special guest of honor, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, SAN, GCON. Keep a date with Radio Nigeria, NTA, and Voice of Nigeria, 1st December 2019, 3 p.m. at the National Christian Center, Abuja. Save the dates.
Hey, we wanna wish you a very, 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 very.
20 years of travel and counting. 20 years of promoting tourism in Africa and diaspora. Over 3 million kilometers traveled. Over 30 African countries visited. Explored the diaspora in 4 continents. Connected over 100,000 happy tourists to Africa. Reached over 50 million homes. Igniting smiles across Africa and beyond. As Goge Africa turns 20, we thank you and invite you to join us in the quest for 20 must-visit destinations in partnerships with the largest TV network in Africa, the NTA, Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Transportation, Studio 24, Delta Airline, Toll Brokers International. You too can still be a partner. Call the numbers on your screen or info@gogeafrica.tv. Goge Africa, celebrating 2 decades of heritage, travel and tourism.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures. Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to? No, but someone is arranging, you know... Listen, Alinko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad or even end up in prison.
I'm Deputy Comptroller of Customs, Joseph Atta, the spokesman for the Joint Security Exercise. Over a period of time, either through indifference or deliberate non-compliance to the ECOWAS protocol on transit of goods by our neighbors, the Nigerian Customs Service have been raising this issue. MOUs were signed severally. They were broken as soon as they were signed. We've seized over 32,050 kg bags of rice, and that is a huge impact. And then the fact that the coming in of this foreign rice have been completely shut down. We've gone around, we've received testimonies of farmers who, before now, found it difficult to sell one truck on a market day. These people say it now that those who could not sell one can now sell up to 20 trucks.
Thanks for rejoining us and good morning, Nigeria. Closure of national land borders could be an avenue for Nigeria to check its developmental strides. This and more is what experts are saying as we join Kolo Mohammed on Business News.
The land border closure, experts say, is a way Nigeria can realize how to expand the grid of its development by leveraging upon natural endowments.
The closure of the border is the best decision this country, this government ever took. You can't allow things flocking in from here and there. When you have been blessed by God with so much long span of waterway, you don't need to have your port in one location. As you have a port in Lagos, so would you have a port in Warri, in Port Harcourt, across the country. If you have active ports in your waterway along the coast, and the ships are coming and selling, it reduces the terrible grid you have in Lagos.
Some experts say Nigeria may soon produce excess rice since farmers are encouraged. Rice mills are springing up and our land borders remain closed.
So by the time we produce the rice that is in excess, I think it's going to bring, of course, the cost of the rice would come down, it would be less attractive to actually import the rice, but I don't think we'll ever have excess rice for Nigeria for now. The time it will become excess is by the time we start appreciating our own different meals, where when you cook yam, potatoes, tuwo, amala, and the rest, and it's appreciated by the younger generation.
Let's now let you see where midweek activities on the floor of the Nigerian stock market placed market indices. That's Business News at this time. I am Kolo Mohammed.
Many thanks, Kolo Mohammed, for the business packet. Next is a newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Bayo Atobi is in the studio. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Good to see you again. Actually.
Good to see you, Juma.
Missed
Good
you
morning.
Last week.
Yes. Good morning, Kinsley.
Right,
Good
Bayo,
morning, Nigeria.
Okay.
So on Newspaper Review today, we'll begin with the Nigerian pilots just below the masthead. Boko Haram Army releases 983 suspects. You find that story on page 5. IPOB accuses Ebonyi government of forming Bakassi boys to attack their members. You find that story on page 6. And the bold headlines there, border closure with rider, a temporary measure that's coming from the federal government. Closure necessary to avoid economy being overrun. And appeals to member countries to respect ECOWAS protocol. That story is on page 8. And the picture story there, President Muhammadu Buhari alongside Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, decorates newly promoted Officer Air Commando Hassan Abubakar to Air Vice Marshal, Commander of the Presidential Fleet here in Abuja. It happened yesterday. And hate speech bill, protesters shut down National Assembly. At the bottom plate of the Nigerian pilot, confiscate certificate forgery. Court issues bench warrant against Senator Erujakpo. Xenophobic straining Nigeria's diplomatic relations with South Africa. That's on page 5. Senate probes oil and gas exploration contracts. Wants 1.5% consolidated revenue, 30% ecological fund for border communities. That's on page 8. Family of 23-year-old girl hit by helicopter bullet cries for help. You find that story on page 29. Nigerian community in Ghana settles rift. That story is on page 12. Oil and gas sector, Nigeria earned $21 billion in 2017. That story is on page 11 and it's coming from Neti.
Okay, let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. Blueprint, below the nameplate, says no going back on IPPIS, defiant ASU vows. But there's a counter story to that in one of the papers that we have this morning. 95% Nigerians lack access to loans. And this story says federal government to stakeholders and others demobilize and reintegrate repentant insurgents with a rider 0.9 million, that's 900,000 displaced Lamawa Ijijins return. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Below the photograph, Nigeria loses $649 million to cyber crimes. That's attributed to the Senate, with details also on page 6. Shiites protests, 60 arraigned for homicide and public disturbance. 946,000 Katsina kids out of formal school system. That's according to UNICEF. And federal government suspends 9 officers over Kirikiri inmate $1 million fraud. And border closure responsible for rising inflation. Federal government admits. That's the story on page 8. Bye.
Well, let's start with the story about the border closure. The Nigerian land border that was closed in August will not be open until our neighbors, the Niger Republic and Benin Republic, abide by the protocol that have been agreed by the tripartite committee. This was revealed yesterday when the Minister for Budget National Planning addressed the press after Federal Executive Council meeting. He recognized that, yes, inflation has increased from 11.24 to about 11.361%, an increase of about 3.37. She says this rise is as a result of a hike in prices of foodstuff occasioned by the border closure. However, he said government had little choice than to close the border. He says Nigeria signed the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and had to put in place economic measures so that our economy will not be overrun. But sadly, most of the measures put together and agreed by our neighbors have not been adhered to. However, she pointed out that in the last 3 months of the border closure, duties have increased by 15%. Nigeria has been saved the export of about 30% of fuel consumption has dropped, And there's also a reduction in the arms and ammunition imported into the country. This background was provided by the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture. And he says, so too are the illegal entry of illicit drugs, which is affecting our youth in the country. He says that all they're required to do, for instance, is if a commodity, a tonnage is exported from Benin Republic, the custom of Benin Republic are required to escort it to semi-border for inspection so that the required levy and duties should be paid. And in the meanwhile, Nigeria has no other choice but to sustain the border closure. President Muhammad Buhari has expressed serious concern about the violence that is happening between the Nsadop and Boji communities of Boki local government of Cross River State. The president said Nigerians must learn to live together and peacefully too with one another. The president said no dispute or disagreement is worth snatching away another person's life. The spokesperson for the president, Garba Shehu, says that the president has lauded the intervention of security agencies. He also called on the governor of Cross River State, as well as Boki local government area, to look into the crisis that is causing the unfortunate disagreement and loss of life there. He says our country does not need another war. Now, there's need to look at some of the running stories that have been ongoing. You recall the issue of Zamfara. Governor of Zamfara State, Bello Mutawalli, has assented to the law to stop the jumbo allowances. The governor, while signing the bill yesterday, revealed that his predecessor signed and approved for himself 360 million from state pension fund shortly before he left office. He says that in repealing the law, the Governor Mutawalli says he will save his successor the agony of having to live with about 702 million annually that they will have to pay to those public officers. He also revealed that most of the retired civil servants, teachers, and other people are owed up to about 6 billion, which is accumulation of pension. And he says that during the 8-year tenure of the former governor, for over 7 years, no pension was paid to the people there. And also on the IPPIS, members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities have reportedly enjoined, some of them have enrolled with the IPPS at the University of Ilorin. The first academic staff that attended at the Senate chambers in Ilorin is said to be a professor. However, the chairman of ASU in Ilorin denies that no academic staff has so far registered. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Ilorin, Professor Suleiman Abdul Karim, had been on record to have said that if other sister unions have indicated to participate, there's no reason why ASU should continue to back out of it. University of Ilorin, you always will recall, had always immune itself from the persistent strike that ASU has always called for in the past. At the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, ASU members protested against mobile police that allegedly accompanied the IP's enrolling team. Also in Port Harcourt, while the academic staff union officers were holding a meeting at the secretariat, the student union government invaded the place and drove out the ASU members. They said they don't want them to occasion another strike crisis that will lead to the closure of the university. So, different strokes from different folks, but members of the CONUA are already registered. And across board, the non-academic staff are all rushing to register, because if they don't, by December, they will have no salary.
Well, let's go to the Punch newspaper. Above the masthead, investors reap 112 billion from bonds in 11 months. That story is on page 27. Again, IMF warns Nigeria against rising debts. That story is on page 12. No border reopening until Benin orders respect protocols. That's coming from the federal government. And beside the nameplate, telecom firms threaten to disconnect banks from USSD. You find that on page 31. Federal government approves 19.52 billion for Kano, FCT, Oyo roads and orders. That story is on page 31. And Still talking about the IPPIS, federal government says lecturers enrolling despite ASU's opposition. With a rider, we employed individuals, not unions, government tells ASU. That's on page 12. And the picture story is there. Anti-hate speech, social media bill, protests rock National Assembly. That's on page 18. You see the pictures of protesters there. $1 million scam. Board suspend Kirikiri prison boss. 8 orders. You find that on page 8. EFCC wants to seize my Ilorin home. That's coming from the former Senate President Olusola Saraki. You find that on page 10. 600,000 persons displaced by Boko Haram not getting assistance. That's coming from the United Nations. You find that on page 26. At the bottom plate of the Punch newspaper, Abuja's rising population worries reps. Lawmakers demand more infrastructure. You find that on page 21. Imo police sergeant commits suicide over delayed promotion. With a rider, we have detained cops who abducted fashion designer. That's coming from the police command. You find that on page 4 and 5. Gunmen abduct FCT monarch. 8 killed in separate Toraba attacks. These stories are on page 8 and 10. Kesley.
All right. The editorial is from the Daily Independent this morning, and it's at page 16. It says, Genco's threat, another reason for power reform. Bayo.
Well, before we go to that, this report that Juma read about demonstration at the National Assembly over the social media bill, the contention is that already in Nigeria, there are provisions in the law and some law that exists, particularly in the cybercrime law, that says exactly what the social media bill is trying to say, and therefore having an enactment is an overkill. However, the visiting secretary, Deputy Secretary General of United Nations says that the UN supports checks and balances on issues of hate speech, but not death penalty. She said that there is no doubt that the social media needs some checks and balances. Hate speech has already over time aggregated and is on the high level. Any legislation being considered to check its predominance is welcome. However, the United Nations does not support death penalty. She said that the UN Secretary General himself has also put in place a special committee on ending hate speech. So hate speech is a matter of concern across the board. And sadly, there was that quick story you reported about 2 instances. In Taraba State, 2 district heads have been killed. You had 30 gunmen invading the area, apparently on a revenge mission because hunters had joined the vigilante to arrest some of the kidnappers. They are now run back into Plateau State. And also in the suburb of Abuja, Kuje Area Council, a traditional ruler was being abducted from his home. So concerns about kidnapping also coming up on the outside. Now the editorial. The editorial is happening on the disagreement between GENCOs, that is generating companies, and the NBET, that is the National Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company. NBET is supposed to serve as a middle agency between electricity generation companies and for issues of their administrative charges. The dispute is over administrative charges of about 7.5%, which NBET demands for issues of gas. And generating companies are saying that they are threatening that they are using the administrative charges to delay their payment, and they are threatening to shut down. And therefore, the editorial is saying that federal government must do something about this development so as to save Nigerians the agony of blackout. The challenge for now is that the Nigeria Electricity Regulation Commission should make initiative to stem the disagreement between those 2 agencies because it is affecting electricity supply.
Okay, Bayo, I would like to thank you for being around.
Thank you.
See you again tomorrow. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We take a short break. When we return, we get ahead with our topic for discussion this morning, which is the ASU's resistance to enrollment of its members in the IPPIS.
In today's world, it's tough
being a woman. But thanks to So Clean, Nigeria's #1 detergent with stain magnet technology, doing washing is a whole lot faster and smarter too. Only So Clean has stain magnet technology with an advanced enzyme formula that pulls out even the toughest trapped dirt, just like powerful magnets. No wonder Nigerians love So Clean. So Clean, for a faster, brighter, cleaner wash.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
It is indeed befitting to honor the memory of the gallant hearts of young men who paid the supreme sacrifice to keep the country united.
President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins all ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal Launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
Character that I played, he's been battle scarred, so that he had dropped that side of his life.
I have to give a shout out to Uzi Kwendu. He came in and choreographed that fight scene with RMD and the 6 guys in the bar.
So I had boxing lessons, I had some kick lessons.
In preparation for the movie, I had to go to drifting school for about 6 months to learn how to drift.
Everything was well done, but they had to go that extra mile to make things as authentic as possible.
When you have like props that are real, they kind of bring something extra to the acting. So when the gun shot went off, like even us, the crew, we shook.
My name is Aminu Goronyo. I am the National President of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, the biggest commodity association in Nigeria and by extension in Africa. I have 12.2 million rice farmers under my platform. The issue of border closure, to me and to RIFAN as an association, does not just limit within what benefit our farmers are getting. It goes beyond that. The importance of border closure is about Nigeria and Nigerians. And in no distant time, Nigerians will begin to see the importance of border closure because we cannot continue to be dancing to the tune of other people.
Welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. Nigerians have been following with bated breath as federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities face off on the enrollment of the Integrated Payment and Personal Information System, IPPIS. Let's see this background report put together by Abdul Malik Adi, which addresses the issue.
I lay before this distinguished joint session of the National Assembly the 2020 budget.
On October 8, 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari, during the 2020 budget presentation at the National Assembly ordered the stoppage of payment of salaries of civil servants who failed to register for the IPPIS by the end of October. This order took its full swing with a closed circuit on universities and the pronouncement by the Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, that university lecturers will be captured on the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System beginning from November 25th through December 7th, 2019. This outstance of government to rid federal universities of corruption and to ensure transparency and accountability through the IPPIS seems to be generating a mixed grill of reaction, with some in compliance with the enrollment in some universities, while others are against, saying it negates the policy of university autonomy. The Academic Staff Union of Universities says, since 1992, the body has been clamoring to obtain autonomy for Nigerian universities, where they are detached from federal civil service, to enable universities to function effectively such that they are in sole control of their affairs, including staff recruitment, financing, among others. Although a faction group of ASU known as Congress of University Academics has directed its members to begin the enrollment for the IPPIS. With myriad of issues and controversies regarding ASU and IPPIS, Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will be taking a critical look at the situation and suggest way forward.
Many thanks, Abdul Malik Adio, for that background. We have joining us in the studios here in Abuja to discuss the issue in further detail, Mr. Olufeyin Olusegun. He is director of the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System in the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. Mr. Olusegun, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. And also joining us in the Abuja studios, a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria, public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. Jide?
Thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. From our Port Harcourt Network Center, we also have, as part of our conversation this morning, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi. Professor Biodun Ogunyemi is the National President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Professor Ogunyemi, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's begin the conversation with the director who is in charge of IPPIS in the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. There's a directive that has been issued from the Office of the Accountant General with regard to the enrollment of staff of universities, federal universities, to be enrolled on the IPPIS. It's supposed to last for 2 weeks up until December the 7th. What is the situation report?
Actually, I want to say good morning, Nigerians. And in carrying out the presidential directive, we all note that in 2019 budget delivery of Mr. President, it was part of his budget speech that all federal government employees, that is in MDAs, ministry, departments, and agencies, drawing their salary from consolidated revenue fund of the federal government should enroll on IPPIS. This was part of 2019 budget. So, and he reiterated it again this year in the delivery of 2020 budget. So, in compliance with this directive, the policy of the government, the Honorable Minister of Finance, in carrying out part of his assignment as the Minister in charge of federal government finance. So, and her right to spend money from that account. The Accountant General, as the Treasurer of the Federation, who is in charge of payment of all government expenditure, so has to carry out this assignment. As we are talking now, the assignment is ongoing on the field.
What is the situation report?
The situation report is that people were enrolling. Even before I came inside now, I have to attend to some inquiries from Wukari. So we're on WhatsApp to know the situation report at all times. So Lagos is ongoing. about the universities that I know of. So they are going, even in colleges of education, the enrollment is ongoing. Actually, whatever, we believe that at the end of the exercise, we'll be able to ascertain who has enrolled on the platform.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We will now be going to Port Harcourt, where Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, National President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, is joining us from Port Harcourt. Can you give us an insight into the controversy that has been raging now for months on the IPPIS enrollment? What is the situation on ground between ASU and IPPIS for now?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. I'm happy the background report stated clearly that all civil servants are to enroll in IPPIS. The first key question to ask is, are academics civil servants? And if IPPIS is meant for civil servants who are in MDAs, we are saying that universities are not part of MDAs, ministry, departments, and agencies. The argument is not about government pays all employees. It's about government should pay all employees through which routes. We know that government also pays workers in central bank. Government pays workers at NNPC, and they are not still covered by IPPIS. We are saying that we have a separate arrangement for employment, personnel, and finances of universities. And that has been established by law. The University Autonomy Law, which was gazetted in 2007, arising from University Miscellaneous Amendment Provision Act of 2003. So, if we go by that, we should know from the onset that we are not talking of universities that are part of government MDAs. Universities are supposed to be governed by their governing councils according to law. What we are saying is that we cannot be probating and reprobating. If something has been established by law, I even had my good friend, one of your anchor men there, saying that should we amend the law in order to accommodate IPPIS? That will amount to probating and reprobating. What we are saying is, let us respect the law. If government has not been following the route established for financing universities, we have to return to that. Like your background report stated, since 1992, we have had this understanding. We signed agreement with government. The agreement was translated into law. The law states clearly any memo being released by government that runs contrary to the provisions of the University Miscellaneous Act, to that extent of its inconsistency, will be null and void. So in this case, ASU is saying that if we go the way of IPs, we will lose the gains we have made about autonomy. Like any other university in the world, universities are not governed directly by ministry. It means that we want to take Nigerian universities back to the core civil service, such that before they can even employ academics in needed areas, in critical areas, they have to get clearance from the ministry. And that is what is happening already. Vice chancellors now we have to visit the office of the Accountant General in order to get clearance to employ staff in critical areas. And this does not come as quickly as we need. Even those who are already part of IPPIS, like the teaching hospitals, our colleagues have told us their experiences. You are newly enrolled for 3 months, no salary. You are there, your salaries are distorted, you are underpaid, we have scandalous tax regimes and so on and so forth. So these things are happening already, and we have documented the evidences. We have said that in place of IPPIS, ASU is proposing and we are already working on it. We have gone more than 30%. We are close to 40% on the platform that we are developing. And we are saying that this can serve the purpose with different levels of control up to the Office of the Accountant General. There are 3 layers of monitoring what goes on in the university in terms of finances, in terms of payroll, in terms of employment. There is the internal audit, there is the external audit, which is to be ordered by the governing council. And the third one is the station, which is to be ordered by the visitor to the university. So if we keep to this 3-layer filter system, we can actually track cases of corruption. And talking about corruption, ASU has not been unrelenting. We have been unrelenting. We have not been unconcerned, rather. We have been persistent in bringing up cases of corruption. We have documented our suspected cases, and we have forwarded to the ministry. Nothing happened. So to now say by voting against IPs, we are condoning corruption, I think is cheap blackmail. That is where ASU is, and ASU is saying that the law on autonomy guarantees that councils should be allowed to do their work. Government should fund councils. Councils can do payroll and personnel. And they have been doing that. They were doing that in the past. They were sending teams to go and do on-the-spot check about employment, and they do head counts and so on and so forth. These are things that have been happening over time. We believe taking us to IPPIS will be reversing the gains of universities, and it will further bring down the global ranking of Nigerian universities. There is no university in the world where we say let staff be employed directly by the ministry and let them operate directly under the ministry, such that before they can get staff in critical areas, they have to get clearance from either the head of service or the Office of the Accountant General. It is antithetical. It is antithetical to the operations of the university system globally. Even in nearby Ghana, where they have something close to IPPIS, for their civil servants, universities were excluded. And we are still asking them, why are they insisting that it is IPPIS or nothing when we have proposed alternatives?
All right, Professor Biodun Guyami, thank you very much there for your initial response. And indeed, the substance of what you have indicated now was also included in the paid advertisement that was published in some national newspapers earlier this week. Daily Trust, for instance, you had it there at page 36. The advert was signed by your good sir. There are a number of issues that you have raised, and happily the director of IPPIS in the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation is here with us in the studios to respond to that. And we have a number of questions we are going to also pose to you later on. But let's come back to our Abuja studios. Jidojo.
Well, my take on this is I think the two parties actually needs to do more brainstorming about what is the best practices to handle this. I, for one, have been very worried about the humongous corruption cases uncovered in many academic institutions. Just November 19th, at the ICPC conference held in conjunction with the Secretary to the Federation, the ICPC chairman, Professor, also an academic anyway, Professor Bolaji Owasanye, was revealing figures of humongous amount of money padded into personnel costs of many health and academic institutions. University of Ibadan, University of Nigerian Soka, the one in Bayelsa, amounted to about 12 billion was discovered. And this is when the entire IPPIS enrollment has not been done. Just imagine at the end of the day. I don't want to assume that these are just very flippant comments coming from the ICPC chairman. So, my own position would be, If ASU has a platform through which this personnel ghost worker can be checkmated, and the federal government can have a look at it, as Professor Ogunleya said, Ogunyemi, if there are 3 layers of filter and the federal government can have a hands-on on what is going on, in terms of, because I know that there are certain peculiarities in academia. It's not like normal civil service. People are hired on short-term contract. There are emeritus professors who, even after retirement, are engaged on contracts and all of that. So does IPPIS cover all of these peculiarities? If it does, I think then ASU does not have a case. If it doesn't, can they work robustly and harmoniously together to find a robust system that will checkmate fraud? Because the whole essence of IPPIS is actually because of the snowballing personnel cost that does not have tandem with reality on ground. Every administration since 1999 have been discovering ghost workers. And I'm still surprised that in 2019, a lot of ghost workers are still being detected. And is it true also that some government institutions like CBN, like NNPC, like Professor Ogunyemi said, are exempted? On what ground were they exempted? And why insisting that ASU must be on this system? So my own will be, let's dialogue. We cannot afford another closure of universities. In the last decade, only God knows how many times academics have gone on strike. And everything should be done to avert another looming one. So, amicable resolution, because at the end of the day, dialogue will still be the only options left. I know there may have been cases instituted in courts, but we know the legal system in Nigeria. It takes a very long while. So, dialogue and more dialogue to find an amicable and middle way solution will be what I personally will advocate for in this situation.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Olufehinti, why did it take so long to bring ASU on board?
Yeah, the IPPIS started on 3 folds. The first 7 ministries were brought on IPPIS in 2007. Then the second tier, we brought in the MDAs. Then the tertiary institutions and paramilitary and military and fall into the stage 3, where we are now. And I know IPPIS have been having consultation with ASU since 2012. And this is 2019. We had cause to have consultations with them, including the National University Commission. So most of the meetings were held there. And committee was set up to accommodate their peculiarities. I think I need to correct certain impression of the ASU being the academic. So, and as they are academicians, federal government employees is inclusive of ASU. And we said any government institutions that is drawing their salaries from consolidated revenue fund, which is the revenue fund, which is the revenue account of the federal government, and the first instance are those people that have to come on board for now. And CBN is not drawing salary from the consolidated revenue fund. So ASU cannot be comparing themselves with CBN for now, because CBN pays themselves within. But once you are through, because within 2 years, the government was able to save over 273 billion. In the past, personnel costs are remitted to MDAs. And if such thing had happened, no dime will come back to federal government to say, oh, this is the balance of the money left. By now, even as of today, as to all the federal universities and colleges of education and polytechnics, money are being sent to them in bulk through GiveMes by the Accountant General. But the government said, no, based on the gain, we have realized that to curb the ghost workers, you send money every time they keep coming, that the money was not enough. They kept demanding. So the government said, no, let us even know the number of employees you have. Instead of spending money in bulk to the institutions, the moment we know the number of employees you have, money will be credited to the account directly. The administration of the university still rests with the universities. The bursars are there to manage the accounts. And in the course of deliberation, we assure them 90 is on IPPIs. I could assure you for the past 2 years, we never had problem with them. The road safety, several organizations, if you manage your organ, the bursars are there to manage the account. But the numbers of employees will appear on the platform. And every time, you will not have cause to say, oh, money is not enough. You keep on requesting for money. How many employees do you have? So, ordinarily, they said, oh, our peculiarities. The government went out of their way to say, okay, let us sit down. We set up a 22 committee where ASU, 8 of ASU members participated in the committee. The committee report was submitted to the whole House on October 8, where the Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, the bursars, and the NUC and IPPI's OAGF representatives were present, where the report was delivered. Based on the delivery of the report, the NAT participated, the NASU participated, the SANU participated. At the general meeting of the House, after the demonstration of the peculiarities, where the system, we demonstrated how the system will accommodate the age, professor and reader at 70 years of age. The moment your date of birth is instituted, the system will tell you when you are likely to retire. As a professor, you are going to retire at 70. As reader, you are going to retire at 70. But as others, 65 years. So the system was demonstrated. But the beauty of it is that, which Nigerians will be happy to know, is that the number of universities where lecturers can now visit have been limited to only one. As against the numbers, we don't know. That you can visit any other university and they earn 50% of their salary in any of the universities they are visiting. Then, when they are on sabbatical is every 7th year. You go on sabbatical. They earn 100% of their salary. They will take 100% of their salary in their primary university, and where they are having the sabbatical, they will still take 100%. We told them that should be treated as allowance. So if you have cause to be visiting other institutions, the moment you have an IPPIS number, the system will indicate that, oh, this man is here and is visiting in the other university. So the system has limited it to one. So in some situations, the government will be able to conserve funds. ASU is talking about funding universities. Once we are able to save as much money as possible, which the current system has confirmed that all this issue of goes, where money goes, so many, like what ICPC mentioned, you go to all these places, they are spending money out of personnel costs, doing what is not related to personnel costs. We know, and the government have decided to say, even if possible, they should be restricted. Every month now, the government is doing that to ensure, but the best way to check corruption and ghost worker is through system. And we expected the ASU to be in the forefront whenever any system that will promote transparency and accountability, because most of the time they criticize the system and they complain about tax. I wonder, I had cause to mention it to them that tax law is meant to be complied with. And if they have any special letter exemptions from any state government to say, don't pay us tax, we will comply with it. Because pay is for the state government, it's not even for the federal government. I wonder how a citizen of Nigeria will be insisting that, oh, the tax is high, they are not going to pay tax. I said, well, if there's anything to support that, we will comply with it. We have had several deliberations and consultations. Up to the last point, they came out, they said, oh, well, it's illegal. If you said it's illegal, the federal government is paying money in bulk. The only difference now is that, oh, we are no longer going to be remitting money in bulk to any tertiary institutions. So the military are disciplined set of people. They have come on board.
Police.
The police are on board. All the paramilitary agencies are on board. So I'm happy to tell Nigerians that even the polytechnics academics that seem to join ASU in the way they were going about, they have just completed the whole enrollment. The only two institutions, or the tertiary institution remaining, is the universities and the colleges of education, which, as I'm speaking currently, the enrollment is going on simultaneously nationwide in both the colleges of education and the universities.
Okay, well, Olusegun, thanks a lot. I remember we had you on Good Morning Nigeria sometime in the past, when the police got onto the IPPIS system and they had some issues which you clarified, and they haven't been back since with any complaints.
Yes, sir. Any system could have its challenges. As complaints is being made, we address it, because you see that is the key beauty of coming on board. When you come on board with all the necessary corporations, the enrollment will be seamless, all the information provided will be real. So in such situation, you have less complaint. But if you decide to keep key information away, then it means that when you come on board, those information, when you are being compelled to provide them, then we have to start rectifying. Even under the current situations, the issue of employment, the Accountant General does not employ people, do not give approval for employment. There are procedures. The university know that if they need to engage, they have a parley with the Office of Head of Service that have the authority to issue waivers. They have to comply. So then there should be evidence that budget, such thing is in the budget, which is by the budget office. If ASU is talking about their legality, you now say, oh, does the law establishing ASU supersede that of the constitutions that gave the management of government finances, which is being exercised by the Honorable Minister of Finance on behalf of the President of the nation? The money belongs to all Nigerians. And we hope that the ASU will shield their sword and embrace what will save Nigerians a lot of billions of money, so that money can be used for other purposes.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Olusegun. By the way, ASU is not established by law. ASU is established under the law. Let's go over to our Port Harcourt Network studios and getting again Professor Biodun. Professor Biodun, you've listened to the director of IPPIS, and he also raised a number of issues in contradistinction to what you have said earlier. What are your reactions?
Of three major issues. He has brought up this issue of clearance with head of civil service again. And the point I made earlier is, do we take academics as part of civil service? Are academics, Nigerian academics, part of the civil service? If we get that definition clearly sorted out, then we will know what we are engaging in this matter. Because that will also bring us to the issue of law. Well, you have said ASU is not established by law. ASU is established under the law. Well, ASU is recognized by law. And that means that we can all engage ourselves on the basis of law. Now, to us, academics are not part of civil service. And it is an abnormal. It's an anomaly for any vice chancellor to be seeking approval from the head of civil service to employ staff in his or her university. What is the place of the governing council? The governing council is the organ recognized by law. So we are setting the matter of law aside. Yes, constitution. Constitution exists side by side with other laws. It is only where there is contradiction that constitution can be taken as supreme. And we don't see any contradiction here because the pathways have been clearly defined. Civil servants are civil servants. Academics are university workers or employees. So I will appeal to the director of IPPIS not to mix issues. The other one I want to bring up along this line is where else in the world, I know he came from Washington, is an employee of World Bank, where else in other parts of the world is this kind of imposition they are lording over Nigerian university system being practiced? It should tell us other countries in the world where academics databases are brought together and handed over to some consultants who can do what they like with the databases. Nigerians should please understand our own perspective. It is in the interest of this country to get ourselves free from control and imposition from those who work for international financial agencies. We have seen the effect of some of these policies that are imposed on us since the days of the structural adjustment program. We don't trust even the data they want to collect, and to what extent, to what end they will be put to use. So we believe that Nigerian academics should not surrender their biometrics, and the biometrics will be harvested by those we don't know for whatever reasons. We have brought up these instances of where even former Accountant General of the Federation admitted that their website was hacked into. Nigerian academics are about the most sensitive group of workers you can see in the country. Their databases are very, very important to us. And that is why we have said decentralized control. We can come up with an alternative. The third issue I want to bring up is the issue about committee. Yes, a committee was set up. We have been on this issue of committee since 2013, when the former director of IPPIS suggested that we should come together and work out a platform that will be agreeable. And what our proposal then, and still now, has been that we can have an alternative to IPPIS. When they didn't agree with us on how to go about it, because after 2014, when we wrote to them that we have set up, we have identified those who will work for the generation of that platform, we didn't hear from them until this last year or thereabout that they started engaging us again. So if they said they've been talking to us for some time, there was a break in between. And what we said was we should be working towards an alternative platform to IPPIS, which will be domesticated in individual campuses. You capture people's data. They are resident with the universities. You don't have to develop a platform that will require that academics will have to travel to Abuja to go and clear any problem with their payment system. And that is what we have seen. We have cited the example of our colleagues in the teaching hospital. To what extent have they addressed that problem? Apart from the sensitivity of the data they are trying to collect. We have told our members, well, they said some are betraying us, some are going into it. Those who did it, those who went into it in the teaching hospital, they are already regretting it. They are already regretting it. Because we know, at the end of the day, the fears we have raised, they will manifest. They will manifest, and it is not going to work in the best interest of Nigerian university system and Nigerians. Finally, I want to bring out this point about the implications of IPPIS for the Nigerian university system, and particularly the Nigerian university system in global ranking. Well, he said, well, the data will still reside, the information will be generated from the universities. How long does it take to process those information at the center? When people have problems and they went to Abuja, how long did it take to address their problems? I'm talking of those who are in the teaching hospitals and the rest of them. we are saying that those who will come, particularly our colleagues in the diaspora, who may want to come to assist our universities for as short as 3 months or as long as 1 year. If it takes you 3 months to sort out their payment, it means that those who have come for 3 months or less, they will not be paid. And that means that it will discourage others from coming to assist our system. So what we have been saying, therefore, is that Nigerian academics should not be reared in isolation. We are part of a global academic community. Nigerians should not see Nigerian university staff or academics particularly as just employees of federal government. Employees of federal government. And because of that, everything the federal government proposes must be taken hook, line, and sinker. Each time we criticize any policy, we come up with alternatives. And in this matter, we have proposed an alternative, and we are working on the alternative. We have discussed some aspect of this alternative with our contacts at the National Assembly, and we think that if, like it was proposed by a contributor from your Abuja station, if we are given the platform, we are ready to show them that we have an alternative that will address the issue of corruption. ASU has zero tolerance for corruption. Anybody that knows our record will attest to the fact that we have never concealed information about padding or overstaffing in the university system. We abhor it and will continue to resist any vice chancellor manipulating the system for personal gain. But let the law be respected until the law is changed. And to change the law, we mean we are probating and reprobating, which is not in the best interest of the system. Thank you.
Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, I'm still staying with you. You know, watchers of the academics feel that the resistance is because there's so much corruption in the universities, and that is what government is trying to work on. So why are you resisting this IP? I am on IPPIS, NTA is on IPPIS, and we've been on it, I think, since 2012. You've been working, you say, on a policy. You've worked 40% from 2012 to 2019. So how far do you think you will go before the end of your own discussion with IPPIS?
Please, I didn't say that we've been working on that platform since 2012. I said we proposed to them that we should work together to develop that alternative platform. But when we didn't hear from them for about 4 years, we thought they had shelved the idea. Until they came back to the idea. We thought our explanations were convincing. Our explanations about autonomy, our explanation about distortion that the system would bring into the university system. So we thought they were convinced until they came back again and said, yes, now we have to capture you at all cost. So it was when this new debate came, even when they set up this joint committee, the last one that he referred to, sometimes this year, our members that went there were saying that ASU is proposing that let us work together and have this alternative platform. Because centralizing our payroll system will mean you are undermining the autonomy of the universities. And the autonomy of the universities arises from the fact of the peculiarities of the universities. And that is the global practice. When people talk about best global practices or best policies across the globe, they do not allow those ideation to run across, to run through. We are in the university system, and we know that university system worldwide, they are allowed to operate based on support that comes through other organs of the universities or even organs outside the universities, but not directly controlled by Ministry of Finance or Head of Civil Service. That is what we are talking about. Nigerians should see the peculiarities of Nigerian universities because those peculiarities gave rise to the autonomy that we are talking about.
Okay. Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, thanks a lot. We want to come back to our guests in the Abuja studios. But just one point, because it's not been clarified. Professor Ogunyemi, you keep saying that university lecturers are not civil servants. I don't think the recognition is that university lecturers are civil servants, gentlemen. I'm sure either your good self or some of your colleagues who are familiar with aspects of labor law will recognize that universities established by Act create the fact that your appointments have statutory flavor. And there are a number of decided cases to that effect. But that statute also ties you to the government, in which case you belong to the wider public service, such as the military, paramilitary, and of course the police, who are also on the IPPIs. One other issue that we'll come back to you on relates to the point that the director of IPPI has made here, namely that the bursary departments of the various universities are not being sidelined in their functions, that it is the information of the personnel in the employment of the universities, for instance, federal universities, that should be on IPPIS. So why the continuing resistance? I want to come back to Jide Ojo in our studios. You listen to what Professor Nguyemi said, the peculiarities that is drawn up. It's also raised the issue about the security of the data that might be mined from the IPPIS, plus other aspects of their developing an alternative platform, which it says is 30–40% completed.
Well, I've listened to both parties with rapt attention, and I think one, there are genuine concerns from ASU, which is about expeditious resolution of issues that may arise. Because Professor Ogunyemi kept referring to those who have already been there, the issues are not promptly redressed or addressed, and they are regretting it. I don't know how we can have a seamless exercise where even when there are issues, these are promptly addressed. And must they come to Abuja to redress some of these things? Because we know academics are generally conservative people. And also that this IPPS is taking some of their lucrative businesses, permit me to use that way. Because I picked something from what director said. Some of them are teaching in more than one schools. They go on sabbatical, they get full salary from where they are teaching, and they also get another salary from where they are doing their sabbatical, 100%. And IPPS is likely to shake the table and take some of these so-called privileges or, additional income away from them. So the concerns are genuine, even if it's not very blatantly said, that this may cut down considerably on their ability to get huge remunerations from their expertise that may be, because I know quite a number of academics who are also in NGO as consultants, and they do that and get very good pay. But I still come back to it, and the other issue about safety and security of data cannot be overemphasized. We know even Pentagon in US has its website hacked into. So what is the security of the data of these people? If there have been attempts in the past to hack into the database of Office of Accountant General of the Federation, what are the safety and security that have been built into that? Because these concerns, yes, it may look like ASU is unduly resistant, but if they work across board, because what I see happening now is that even in the academia, the non-academic staff are on this payroll, and it's only the academics that seems very resistant because of maybe feelers they've gotten from their colleagues who have voluntarily agreed to be on this platform. So if these concerns can be looked into, and I don't know whether government will have a moratorium. I don't know. That may not be an ideal word to use, or a kind of maybe 3 months or 6 months for ASU to come up with its own design. Then they jointly look at it, compare it to what the IPPS currently has offered, and see whether there is they can marry the two together. Because we cannot just say forcefully you must be on this if it's going to affect our global ranking, if it's going to discourage a lot of academics from diaspora from coming to help our systems, if it's going to be penny-wise, pounds foolish. So these concerns I will implore have to be looked into. Are there genuine concerns? Can we resolve that? Many of the concerns that because even what I read as at yesterday was that, for instance, in University of Abuja, those who want to even be on the exercise seems to take a very long while. It's a 3-layer exercise. The biometric aspect of it is unduly delayed, and people kind of are very impatient. So if it means getting more personnel for those who are willing and ready, and for the exercise, if it's about hiring more hands, if it's about timeous resolution of issues, because there are bound to be issues for a system that is new. So if this can be looked into, promptly addressed to the satisfaction of both parties, I think we'll get somewhere.
I was just wondering.
Yes, just correct something.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ojo. I want to correct one impression. I'm not from Washington. I'm truly Nigeria. I school here. I did everything I need to do here. And I want to say something precisely, that our consultants, they are all Nigerians. In all our deliberations, there is no single foreigner. This thing was designed by Nigerians, and we've been using it. And even the current one they are talking about, I know this issue of safety of their data came up in one of our meetings, early meetings. I requested that professor, anybody like now, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, Google his name now. You see all his particulars. You have biometrics. If you have international passport, we have BVN. So what is so special about this? The content, it is when the federal government approved the consultant, they are purely Nigerians. And it's one of the products of all these universities. So the other aspect I want to say is this. The tertiary, the teaching hospitals, what Professor Ogunyemi was saying is not right. Because the honorary consultants came pleading when hospitals are being taken in. They are lecturers in the universities. They came pleading with their union to say we should bring them on board. And they were brought on board. The new executives of the union, they came to even appreciate, to thank the Office of Secretary General for bringing them on board. You are aware that resident doctors went on strike, that if they are not placed on IPPIs, if you notice, that has brought a little respite in the health industry. So the major challenge is this. If you follow the due process, in the course of your engagement, you intimate us and say, oh, we are engaging new staff. As they are being documented, their biometrics are being taken. There will be challenge. Seamlessly, they will get salary as they have been. But when you engage them, they are already working. You are coming up as, oh, this one has been working for the past 3 months. In the course of documentation, invite us and say, oh, please, let us have their biometrics side by side as they are being documented. So there will be less challenges. So whatever challenges we have, it is addressed. You don't need to come to Abuja. We created desk officers like their bosses. I told you of recent at 90. And even road safety and several other MDAs that have taken their IPPI seriously, because the challenge is that the moment no loose fund is coming up again, people are no longer interested. in that area. But the moment you know that payment of salary to your staff is germane, is the key thing. So the desk officer will be the one that will have interface. They come to Abuja to defend their budget. They come to Abuja to get all those things. They don't need to come for their salary.
Okay, well, Mr. Olusegun, there's one point that Professor Ogunyemi raised, and that has to do with the power to hire. And it was taking that from one of your explanations. Yes, does the power to hire now reside in the office of the head of service of the Federation or with the governing council of the respective universities as provided for in the acts establishing the respective universities?
The current, the issue of administration of the university still rests with the governing council. You know, there's something we call planning. In the course of planning, you know in 2020, these are the number of staff you are likely to hire. So based on that, you know, there are certain procedures. Probably you feel that, oh, this thing, you want to ascertain that in compliance with what you have budgeted, submitted.
Projected, yes.
Then the ODD, we call this Organization and Design Department Office, all of them, both the polytechnics, colleges of education, is not now because they are coming on IPPIs. That have been their procedure. Liaising with the governing council, these are the number of people we want to employ. You see, what they don't really know is that when you bring in a contract staff or personnel cost, you are saying Nigeria should be paying pension. Pension are paid to people that are
full-time staff.
Full-time staff. Okay. Contract staff are taken care of under a non-regular line, like the corpers, like the IT students. So if you hire a foreigner 3 months, your recurrent will take care of that. And these are things that we told them. So they talked about outsourcing. Outsourcing is a contract. You are not supposed to pay contract under a personnel cost. Okay. Because the moment you do that, the government is going to be paying pension on people that are not supposed to be paying pension on.
That's contributory
pension, because the federal government will contribute 7.5%, which is now 10% and 8% by the individual. So contract staff are not supposed to be paid pension.
Okay, thank you, Olusegun and Professor Ogunyemi and Jide Ojo. We have a number of tweets that have also come in from our viewers, and of course there are a number of other issues we would like the ASU National President to respond to based on the explanations provided by our guests in the studios, but we'll take a short break now.
Meet the dreamer. Meet the stylish. Meet the bold. Meet the inquisitive. Meet the warrior. Meet the master. Meet the realist. The challenge is coming. Unity Challenge. Power, development, and peace. Coming soon.
This Saturday on the Premier League, Chelsea take on West Ham United at Stamford Bridge.
Move now! The red light won't kill you. Move now!
To the disobey traffic law, they cause accidents. Me, I don't talk, say I no go dey do am again, because change begins with me.
Cross the other side of the road. I will no longer endanger my life crossing the express. Instead, I will use the bridge, because change begins with me.
Oga driver, stop this bus now, won't come down. I be one carry me fast where they go.
Make I dey stop anyhow for road, they cause traffic wahala and accidents. So I go dey stop for the right bus stop, because change begins with me.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. If you're just joining us, we've been discussing ASU and IPPIS. We have quite a number of tweets that came in the course of our discussion. I will be taking them one after the other, but actually the tweets are quite long. Can you make your tweets as short as possible and precise? I'll be taking the tweet from Gashetu, that's 10. ASU members are just egocentric members. If they don't register with IPPIS, they should be sacked. They don't have genuine excuse apart from innuendos. ASU's story of working on payment application is fake news. Let them develop the app and sell it to companies to use first. Though the federal government has continually entered into agreements with the union since 2001, but the implementation of the terms is slow and in most cases requests are totally ignored, while the Nigerian students bear the brunt of this long-standing battle between both parties. Too bad.
Akejo Olagwaju tweets, now the platform, that's IPPIS, is flexible to address the need of any of the 12 structured salary scales in Nigeria. ASU should be assured that it wouldn't erode the autonomy, but rather check multiple appointments going on in tertiary institutions and free more resources for research in the university system. As long as the government continues to renege on its agreement, university teachers strike will continue to be a reality. We implore the federal government and ASU to come to a compromise because strikes are not the best option to resolve any rift.
And Ishaq Abdullah actually has questions. What makes academics not to be civil servants when they draw their remuneration from federal government? 2, the IPPIS platform is to eliminate decades of fraud in the personal cost in Nigeria. 3, is collecting 2 to 3 salaries from different universities by lecturers not corruption? Let ASU give us variable evidence from academic institutions in other climes.
Dele Jack Solomon, according to ASU, IPPIS lacks the flexibility to address the peculiarities of the Nigerian university system. But if enrolling all federal universities on the IPPIS is to promote transparency and accountability in government expenditure, why not ASU give it a trial first? Based on the technicalities and legality of enrolling IPPIS, I doubt if ASU will be able to stop the federal government from enrolling it in IPPIS because ASU is an integral part of the service system paid by the federal government. We want federal government and ASU to come to an agreement for the sake of the students.
And Josh PhD tweets, IPPIS is a good idea, but why rush to enforce it? I think gradual implementation should be the way forward.
Chris Simeon, ASU should stop arguments and get enrolled onto the IPPIS. In this kind of situation, it is all about conflict of interest, and the federal government should use conflict resolution strategies like integration and compromise to solve the matter.
And Badamasi Haruna Adamu tweets, the antagonism between them is just a conflict of interest.
Now, Francis Obi, the one thing ASU is running away from is that they don't want to be exposed. Please, for crying out loud, every organization should join IPPIS, including the defense. That's already there, because there's so much fund coming in that they mismanage. If not, let IPPIS be scrapped for all.
And Mohammed Kabina tweets, the argument is lack of flexibility of IPPIS, but ASU is inflexible too. Why can't they change with time? In class, they emphasize on science to provide efficiency and effectiveness if used in the civil service, but they are running away from it today.
Now, Shetima Khalifa tweets, I see no logic for ASU to reject IPPIS because they are the nation's hope and are paid by government. ASU and universities management should request for more time to explain the fault lines to government and members. It should be all-inclusive except defense and security for obvious reasons, internal checks. But.
And Obola Babs tweets, what's ASU afraid of? If there's nothing sinister or surreptitious members engage in, there is practically nothing to be afraid of. The reality is that many of them teach in many federal government tertiary institutions, and they know IPPIS will discover multiple salaries that accrue to them. The way this issue is going, ASU is, as a body will become weakened in months to come. Already, there's a breakaway faction which has issued directive for members to be enlisted on IPPIS. How much longer can all of its members stay without salary, especially those with no extra income?
All right,
Well,
Juma.
this
This is a very lengthy twist that we have taken.
Quite some lengthy tweets.
Yes, and well, of course, you have already advised our viewers to keep their tweets short,
precise,
and sharp. Okay, let's, Professor Biodun Oguyemi, we saw you on the screen a while ago. Let's return to you so that you can respond to the issues that are on the table following the explanations provided by Mr. Olusegun and the comments also coming from Jide Ojo right here. One, just to indicate part of the areas of interest we'd like you to also speak on. Mr. Olusegun said that, one, when the IPPIS comes into effect for academics in federal universities, there will be a restriction to one visiting offer, as it were, or one visiting appointment, obviously to another federal university. Is this an issue that ASU is not comfortable with? Because, you know, in the larger federal civil service, federal public service rather, you cannot have double appointments. But for purposes of academia, yes, they say restriction to one visiting appointment. It hasn't clarified whether that restriction would also apply to if you are visiting a state university or you are visiting a private university, and there are many of them right now. That's one leg of my question. The other leg is also what was raised in the tweets, and which we have also been reading in the newspapers, that Konwa, which is a breakaway faction, as it were, of ASU, is urging its members in some of the universities where their members have signed up to Konoa to go register. What's your reaction to that?
Well, thank you very much. First, let me clear my submission about the director of IPPIS. I was trying to establish his connection with World Bank. He has said that he's a Nigerian and he has lived in Nigeria and so on. But let him deny it before the camera that he has never worked for World Bank. And when we say people are agents of these international finance agencies, we are also saying that Nigerians working in Nigeria, but who have links with World Bank, and that has been proved over time. As for people or academics working in many universities, I think we have to put it in proper perspectives. There are some of these links that are actually solicited by new universities. On a daily basis, we are creating new universities. We are not thinking of those who will provide services in those universities. I mean, academic services, teaching, research, and other services in the universities. So we are aware that there are instances where universities, new universities, will come to older universities to come and seek help. Nigerians are not talking about proliferation of universities. Proliferation of universities are doing a lot of damage to the Nigerian university system. Talk of private, talk of state, talk of federal. Now we are creating University of Transportation, University of Environment, University of ICT. Where are the human resources for manning them? That is the first thing about working in more than one universities. But another thing is that there are already universities that have come up with policies on not working in more than one university. I can give you the example of Bayero University, Kano. I'm aware that there is a policy in that university that says that you cannot work in more than one university outside your place of primary employment. And that university also should not be more than 200 kilometers in radius to where you are working. So there are ways of taking care of all of this rather than making so much hue and cry. It's like making mountains out of molehills. When people come to seek support, in fact, some lecturers will say, before I can take this offer you are giving me, go and seek clearance from my department, go and seek clearance from my university. So our members are not doing things that are illegal, and they should not criminalize what they are doing to assist other universities. There are scarce areas in Nigeria today. Every department teaches, almost every conventional university, you have department of physics. How many experts in physics, and not to talk of specialized areas like nuclear physics or health physics, do we have in Nigeria? How many experts do we have? So we should put things in perspective. There are surgeons, neurosurgeons, who are in high demand. Universities beg them to support the training of new medical doctors in those specialized areas. So we should put these things in perspective. I'm talking about sabbatical. There is nothing illegal about sabbatical. It is part of the condition of service. And that is where employment in the universities is different from employment in civil service. Civil servants do routine things. The basis of sabbatical is that you go to another university for peer comparison, for peer review, and you share knowledge. Let us go back into the history of scholarship. Scholars in the olden days, they were known for moving from one university to the other, dispensing knowledge, facilitating knowledge, creating innovative ideas. That is the basis of scholarship. And that is why we are saying scholars should be treated in their own special categories. This is why you see scholars in Europe and America who are designated visiting scholars in more than 2-3 universities. There's nothing criminal about it. But because our own obsession is about material gains, and we analyze every issue, even what we contribute to our national development in terms of naira and kobo, we have reduced ourselves to people who only assess people on the basis of income, on the basis of what material gains they gain. Scholars do this all over the world, and Nigerian scholars should not be stigmatized. Well, I've heard some of the comments made by some other Nigerians. Maybe we need to put our case in some clearer perspective so that people can know. And that will also, speak to our students. Our students should not reduce themselves to local students. We are in an age of internationalization. Students in Nigeria should be able to move to any other part of the world and fit into the system. People can say we are not giving them the best, but I can tell you confidently that we are not doing too badly because our products, they move out of this country and they excel.
Okay, Professor Olafihente, you've been raising a lot of issues. You've not really answered the question that Kingsley asked you. ASU is shaky. The center can no longer hold. Based on your arguments, the other faction of ASU is saying they are going for IPPIS. Why are you, as ASU, resistant? Since you already have factions and students are complaining, like we read on the newspaper review, they chased some ASU members out of the IPPIS registration center in Abuja. So since the center cannot hold, can't there just be a level playing ground, a center that you can meet with IPPIS to ensure that this happens? We're running out of time. Briefly.
Students are not chasing out lecturers. Where we have seen some of these shenanigans playing out are places where students are sponsored. Like what happened at the University of Port Harcourt yesterday, where students were sponsored to go and attack lecturers who are meeting peacefully, who are deliberating on affairs that concern their membership. Well, that is an abomination, actually. But we know those who are behind all of these sponsored cases. We are talking of factions. ASU does not have a faction. But people who are aggrieved because of some disciplinary measures that we meted against them for violating our constitution, they are the people behind this rebellious act, and they're trying to pull down the union. But the union is up to the task. Every union will always have this kind of challenge because we know that it is very difficult to get 10, 20 people to agree on all matters all the time. So they are not beyond resolution. So when people keep talking about one faction called one name, I want to know where that name is registered. Because it's like the media hype over this factionalization, this breakaway group. What some vice chancellors are doing now is to encourage that factionalization.
Okay, Professor Guyemi, as we said, we are pressed for time. We want to come back here to our studios. You talked about that. We read several weeks ago that the CONUA, that is the Congress of University Academics, has actually filed an application for registration. So that's the status of the registration is unknown to us at this particular moment. But your points and the issues that you have raised have been noted. Jide Ojo, let's get your closing thoughts, of course, as well as reaction to the points that have come up on the table.
Well, thanks for that opportunity. I think ASU needs to watch its back. What happened to NLC is what is going on with ASU now. You know, before we have only NLC. Today we have NLC, TUC. In fact, another faction, led by Ajero, has also come up. So, if they are not flexible, I am of the opinion that two things. As Director here has explained, there are contract staff whose payment of their contracts are taken care of, not on the IPPIS, but by a different means of payment agreed to by the governing council, as well as the BOSA, the VC, and all of that. So, if you are hiring people for 3 months, I don't see the need for you to be on IPPIS. If you are hiring people for 6 months, I don't see the need for you. Because IPPIS is actually meant for people who are going to be paid pension, who are going to be paid gratuity after the retirement from office. So I think we should not confuse everything that, okay, because of we are hiring 3 people, people for 3 months from UK or from Germany, then the IPPIS is going to distort the employment and appointment and all of that. I think IPPIS, from the understanding I have, is meant for full-time workers, academics of the university. So, having said that, the other point is, can we just give it a trial? If those who want to be on IPPIS will be allowed to voluntarily be, those who want to exempt themselves can go on with the trial database that they are trying to have. Maybe by the time they have the database ready and government looks at it and with superior arguments, they may migrate everyone to that platform. But I think nobody should be persecuted for those who are willing and ready to be on IPPIS for obvious reasons. Not every one of the academics are well endowed. If their salaries are not paid for the next 3-6 months, family dislocation, social disorientation comes in. So I think that flexibility should be there. ASU should not go about enforcing and chasing people who want to go on IPPIS, should not be going to chase them away from those registration centers. This is an academic environment, mature people, so let them be. But I think ASU needs to show some measure of flexibility in handling this issue. They have been on it for 5-7 years, so it's better to have a win-win solution fashioned out for all of them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst. It's been a pleasure having you, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Program. And we'll also thank Olufeyin Olusegun, Director, Integrated Payment and Personal Information System, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. Thank you. It's like you really want to say something.
Yeah, I want to say something that...
Very briefly. Very briefly.
Actually, we welcome whatever ASU want to design for Nigerians. After all, the Stanford University in California, they develop what has become a Silicon Valley today. So they, in their research, they should know they owe Nigerians a lot of things. So, and at the same time, salary is personal. Employment is based on individual, not on union based. So individuals were engaged by government. The individuals that were engaged are the ones that will receive salary. So one thing I want to let us who realize is that there's nowhere in the world where employee dictates to his employer how he or she should be paid. I think this is not possible in any of the private universities in Nigeria. If ASU will be able to dictate to any proprietor, oh, this is the way I should be paid. So I think they are just making an argument because we have had solutions for every peculiarity they have.
All right, Mr. Olufayinti Olusegun, Director, IPPIS, Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, we'd like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning. And from our Port Harcourt Network Center, we're joined by the National President of ASU, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi. Professor Ogunyemi, sorry, it's a time base. We appreciate the fact that you've been with us. We may have to, I know that you are itching to say something, but I don't know how much time the director is going to allow us. We may have to return to this subject matter at some point, and we hope you oblige us. But if there's anything you want to say, can you say that very briefly?
Okay, yes, this other set of people that are not to be paid by through IPPIS, where will the money come from when government is not funding the universities? Then again, you are saying that we are not working in the interest of the students. But our students should know that the quality of university education they have also depends on those who come from outside Nigeria to help us. Thank you very much.
Right. On that note, our final appreciation to Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, National President ASU, from our Port Harcourt Network Center. All right, so that does it for Good Morning Nigeria today. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Jumwa Yusuf. Enjoy your day.
NTA, you can't beat the reach.
Dab. Yes. One day as I did dab, they go. Now I see my neighbor on top electric pole. Don't be how my hold so. Before. So? Climb every day. Come on electric bill. You no gree pay.
Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here.
Okay, oh. I don't talk my own. As I dab reach house. Yay! Fire! Fire! My brand new flat screen.
Pull up.
Waiting concern you for there. I beg you. Come over here.
Government property, na my property. If you don't come down now, I go report.
Don't be only report. Now report card.
Dab. Yes.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news. This is the network service of the NTA.